Alright, hey guys, we have got some cool gear that I'm looking forward to trying out. I have used this 68 gap on my timeless titanium before and I really enjoyed it, but I haven't tried the Perma-Sharp stainless, Perma-Sharp super stainless in it yet, and that only has about 7 uses, so pretty young and sharp still. We have a sample from Hub City soap company, and it's their newer scent named WTX. I've got the scent notes for that, a lot of notes going into that, and so we'll see what we can pick up and what we can't. Yeah, I got that rose. I picked up a little bit of that rose. All right. The brush is this really cool dogwood handle, and I have a nice badger in here on the cheap side, Virginia Cheng, and so the tips aren't quite as luxuriously soft as some of the more expensive badgers, but it's really enjoyable. I mean, look at that big old bloom, and it holds a ton of water, and so I'm looking forward to more uses with it, especially if the tips might they're soft now. What I want them to, what it would be great if they got even more soft with some more uses. I've got my usual lather bowl, and we will take my 1/4 teaspoon measure and hook out the WTX. So the write-up, this one's got a little bit of firmness to it, definitely not a cream, little bit more than a 1/4 teaspoon. We'll just use this time, should be plenty of soap. And the theme on his website that he talked about, while that's kind of goes along with this scent, is it should kind of embody the, I believe, West Texas culture. Slightly rugged with a refined element. And so, since there is rose and saffron in there, I'm guessing that is what he is choosing to represent the refined element. There's also black pepper, lavender, and dried berries. So that'll be interesting to see what comes out of it. And then once all those guys kind of burn off, we're talking about the base notes now, and there are six more notes. That was 5 already, so I guess we've got 11 pieces to this scent, and that'll be fun to see which ones we're able to pull out. The base notes are, they get more manly, more rugged. Leather, oud, amber, incense, tonka bean, and aged bourbon. Now, you know, aged bourbon, really, I kind of got a feeling that's a gimmick ingredient. Put a little bit in there just to say it's got some bourbon in there. I've sampled so many soaps that talk about that as being a scent note, but you just never pick it up. So I won't be surprised if we don't get that one. All right, get my face wet. One day of growth. I did end up shaving last night, and we have spread the 1/4 teaspoon plus around in the bowl, and it did get fairly soft, and so it was very easy to spread around. Shouldn't have any problem dissolving at all into the lather. And we've got my 40 milliliters, which we'll subtract from as we go, and there we go. I kind of slung out the brush a little bit, and so it's probably not as wet as it usually is, and so I am starting it out with some of the water from the jigger there. A lot of fibers in this knot, but it's not super dense. It has easy splay, and I believe it's the Silvertip from Virginia Cheng. You get knots from her through eBay. VigShaving, I believe. So let's see what we can pick up. I'm going to go ahead and add some more water. The rose from the dry sample, I picked up that rose right away. Maybe the saffron, if you kind of ask me about it and put it in my mind, then I can kind of perceive it. Oh, I get the berries and the lavender. It is enjoyable. It doesn't really smell feminine, and so obviously the other parts of the scent, you know, rose is not the only one coming through, and so we're not talking about, you know, grandma's old rose scented body powder, or, you know, whatever. Leather, amber, tonka bean, oud, incense, and aged bourbon. Oh, that's interesting. The lavender is kind of giving it kind of an earthy feel. And let us tilt you down with a clean hand. Recently I used Ideal Man from Hub City, and the performance of that particular brand I really enjoy. It takes a lot of water, but it's very slick, nice and creamy and luxurious feeling. I think he's done a great job with his soap formula. The rose kind of came and went, which I don't mind. I think it's still there a little bit, but I think the lavender is stepping forward. It's got the hints of the dried berries behind it now. And I think the leather and oud are starting to come through as well, and they kind of work really well. Lavender and oud are a wonderful, wonderful combination. Noticed that one time when I put on some oud focused balm after shaving with a lavender shaving soap, and man, I was so impressed with that scent combination. We've used almost 20 milliliters. This is WTX. Now I got a feeling it'll go farther with water. We're not really looking quite like flowing marshmallow cream yet. So let's just put a bit more in there. And one thing I usually forget is that when you're mixing in a bowl, sometimes you actually get a better mixing motion if you don't press down all the way. Now I never press down all the way in terms of making that brush splay as much as it could possibly splay. I normally might maybe about halfway is kind of my practice, but even then, see, if you press and get that the brush kind of splayed out under the lather, sometimes it doesn't really do as much mixing. And so I was reminded this time, just kind of let the brush hover a little bit above the bowl where maybe you're not even, maybe only the tiny ends of the tips might be splaying out. And then that lets more lather be underneath the brush and really get circulated and mixed through. And I think that's a good looking lather there. Let's just go with that. Get my face wet. Hey, I have shown you guys this razor case before. This is a cheap one from AliExpress, maybe DS Cosmetics or Yaki or something, you know, one of those stores, sub stores under there. And this area here is for a tuck of blades. This is for the head. And of course, this is for the handle. And I like it because when it's shut, you can see the handle. And so you know which razor this is without having to open it up. If you use a zippered case, you have to open it up if you're carrying multiple razors with you. Another neat thing about this, and I've shown this before on my channel, you can take your blade and put it between these two flaps. And indeed, that's what I did when I brought the gear down to this room. And it kept my blade from getting bent up, gave it some nice protection. Obviously, you may not want to have it there for some long trip where it might roll around and rumble around and things like that. But I've often used it for temporary carrying across the house. Now, I've found that this pocket for the tuck of blades obviously can be used for that purpose. But like this razor, I have multiple base plates. For this one and my Carve and some others, Rockwell, you know, you might be carrying around multiple base plates. And so this can also be used for that extra base plate that you're not using. The current one with the top cap would be stored up here because you've got the top cap bolt coming through. But then the base plate without a top cap can be in this other alternative compartment. So that's really cool. Let's go ahead and put the Perma-Sharp Super Stainless into the Timeless Titanium. This is the 68 gap, like I said, the more mild gap, which I am just a huge fan of. And lately this blade has been kind of acting like one that's got a nice level of sharpness to it. And so maybe having it in a mild, smooth razor can be a wonderful combination. And there we go. No need, you can visually check it if you want, but I've just never put a blade into a timeless razor of this design, well, any timeless razor, and had to adjust it. And so that it's just locked in with a very nice precision. I'm very happy with the timeless. And let's put this lather on and we can get busy. WTX. So if you like easy, really easy splay with a Silvertip brush, but some of the Silvertips might be a little too cushy and soft for you. If you like a very gentle light scrub, then right now that's kind of where this brush is. But I really like the hairs. I like the backbone. I've definitely tried some a Simpson brush that I enjoyed a lot less than this one. And this one costs way less, even with a Dogwood handle. So there we go. We've got a good coat on there. So let's just work it into the skin for a little bit longer. Then we'll even it out. It could definitely use some more water if I wanted to add some in. All right. Perma-Sharp Super Stainless. I haven't tried it with very many razors, so I am looking forward to this. It sure has done well in the razors I've tried it in, like a slim. Oh, this is just terrific. It feels, you can hear the blade very slightly, but it feels in very good control. A nice firm edge. Feels, we've got a lot of consistency. It's just a very light shaving feel to this one. So very nice combination in terms of comfort. And it has been delivering in terms of closeness lately with other razors, and so I'll bet that the Timeless is going to be no exception. Very quick work. Do a little touching up and some extra work in the trouble zone there. And I'll get a good rinse. The strength on this soap is not very high. It mainly comes to me when I put my nose in the bowl. Doesn't really waft up too much when I've got the bowl down in my midsection area, so it's not coming up about 10 inches or so to my nose, really. Oh, get the water out of my goatee. Yeah, so very light scent in terms of actual use. It's not so light that you can't pick out the notes when you stick your nose in the bowl, but it is kind of too light to really be picking out too much right now. What's on my face? Cross grain now. Again, you can usually not see my skin move under the weight of the razor, and that's because I'm watching my pressure. My technique, my preferred technique is to just give it enough pressure to keep it on the skin and not any more. I'm not going to go against the grain, even though I feel like I could with minimal irritation. Kind of did that yesterday with a different razor, and I did end up with just a little bit of tenderness, and like I expected yesterday, it did disappear within 10 minutes or so, so it's not a big deal at all. The post shave today, I'm continuing on with my experiment of having a cologne and then having the actual aftershave, the immediate post shave product, be something very mild. And so today it's Lucky Tiger. And it's got a little bit of an orange scent to it, but it's got all kinds of skin helping ingredients. And so it doesn't really provide too much in terms of scent. But the cologne is Stirling Barbershop, and it's going to be providing the scent. And it will definitely last. I'll put it on my hands, my wrists, and it does last hours into the morning tomorrow. So it's definitely, even though I'm a night shaver, it'll definitely something I enjoy the next day. And so I'm very pleased with the potency. Okay, now that we're a little into our shave, let's take a look at this lather here. Still a few different passes. I'm about to put on the third pass, and so we do have plenty here. We could back off from that 1/4 teaspoon plus amount of soap that we started out with, obviously. And I did not overwater it in this case, and so we don't have to worry about that. Now, do I pick up any of those base notes? Yeah, I pick up the leather. Maybe not so much of the amber, but I'm not a big fan of super strong pure amber, so maybe that's good news. Maybe the tonka. It would be just a hint, I think. I think the oud is being kind of quiet. And the incense as well, and the bourbon, I think. So the saffron, rose, black pepper, lavender, and dried berries. I think the lavender is still hanging out with us. The pepper is very light. I'm happy about that. Pepper often adds a neat dimension, but I have had a couple of soaps where it was overused, and unfortunately it ruined the soap for me. Just not, in my preference level. The rose has definitely backed off. It's worked its way out of the scent, and so I think I am picking up the saffron, but it's very light, and if you didn't know it, you may not even think it's there. And so it's not a strong scent, not super dominant. So it's an interesting scent. I'm glad I just got a sample of it because it's just not very strong. So this blade's still cutting quite well, and it's on its 8th shave now. I do have a little tenderness kind of right around my shave line, somewhere around there, and so I wonder if maybe I had kind of an errant stroke, or maybe I wasn't watching my pressure or something like that. This is a mild razor, and when you are in your latter passes of your shave, you may learn to really get the angle right, because you'll be moving it, and the angle of really effective cutting when your hair is already so closely cut is relatively small. And so you'll move that razor across your face and you'll think, I don't think I cut anything, and it'll be because your angle is not quite right. And there we go. So and that happened to me a few times during this shave, and just adjusted my angle, and sure enough, I got that little bit of audio back, and I got the slight blade feel, and so that fixed everything up. Had another case today on the forums of one of the popular websites out there for shaving, where a guy was talking about how he has to disassemble his 3-piece razor after every pass because the soap, the lather, just gunks up underneath it. Guaranteed. He needs more water in his lather. Guaranteed. Speaking of water, let me do a rinse. So I like the Hub City soap base, and it also leaves my skin feeling pretty good. I don't feel super ultra moisturized like a couple of those other bases might leave you feeling, and so I think that's why I like this base a little better than some of those other more advanced bases with all the moisturizers, because I don't need those. The Lucky Tiger has aloe vera, calendula, and chamomile, and maybe a little bit of witch hazel. I can't remember. And this, I just love kind of the vintage look of the Lucky Tiger, and it's one that you sometimes will actually see if you go into a beauty supply store. And then definitely a neat, pretty accurate orange scent on this, and it's a very nice toner with no alcohol, so it shouldn't bother sensitive skin. And it's good for all kinds of skin, so you don't have to. You can spread it on your elbows and arms and forehead because it's just good for you. And so the scent definitely wasn't hanging around me from the WTX there. Sometimes samples do have a slightly less scent strength than the real tubs do, the full-size tubs do. Maybe because they sit out while they're being spooned out into the containers, or something like that. I'm not really sure why, because I'm confident that it was sealed up as it transported to me. But this one is a little bit on the light side, just like the Ideal Man was. Both very pleasant scents, very enjoyable. I probably that woodiness. A little bit of the woodiness is coming through now. But since there's no specific wood mentioned, I think it might be a combination of maybe the tonka, the oud, and the amber perhaps, and the leather. I might like the Ideal Man just a little bit better, but both of them are very enjoyable scents. If I had this on a desert island, then I would be enjoying my shaves, that's for sure. But I definitely don't. It doesn't have enough that stands out to me that lends me toward a Texas or Western type vibe to it. And that's a little disappointing because that's what the cover art is on the photo. It's what his description indicates. I would want more of the leather, the oud, the amber, all those base notes that he was mentioning. The incense and all that. I would have liked that. But it's definitely not only those top notes of kind of a feminine nature. They are muted nicely by the other notes. They are kind of held in check, and they don't get feminine. It's an enjoyable scent with the rose often offers a little bit of sweetness. And so the sweetness and the pepper, the lavender really helps keep things kind of earthy without letting that rose be too high and floral. And I really like the dried berries hint that was in there as well. And so I think it's a very interesting combination. I might avoid the saffron, but who knows? Sometimes when you take away a part that you don't like, you don't realize that it was doing a job. It was doing a job in the scent, and then all of a sudden you discover if that scent is gone, it's not doing that job, and so the scent really transforms. But I might not mind if the saffron was gone, but I understand saffron's good for your skin. There's some of their soap like Santa Maria Fiorenza or Fiore or something like that by Razor Rock, I believe that is saffron based, or there's something out there. Oh wait, is it Abate La Mantilla has a saffron soap? Yeah, I think they do. But anyway, I don't really care for that scent too much, and it is a little bit too high in the. It's not super obnoxious, but now that I think about it, it is a little higher in the profile kind of distribution. A lot of those other notes I might like to have a little bit stronger than the saffron, just as my own little preference. But in terms of comfort, very much enjoyed the shave. His base is great quality. Again, today, just a quick, a nice slick base. I was able to move quickly, and I got a nice close shave. And oh yeah, I did do maybe a little bit of against the grain work right there at one point. And that tenderness that's right there, it's already gone away. So the Lucky Tiger maybe helped out with that. And so let's see if the barbershop there, it might have a few ingredients in common with the soap. And then I know that this barbershop goes well with the light orange type scent from the Lucky Tiger. So I bet this is all going to work pretty well together. I think this barbershop, it maybe even has tonka or vanilla, a little bit of that in there. And so that's going to agree with, of course, tonka. But vanilla also agrees with tonka. That is in the soap scent. And so I think we've got a neat little combination here that it's working well together. So very cool. I'm going to clean up my gear. Oh, hey, before I forget, the water usage for today is 25 milliliters, about 5 teaspoons there. And I've got 2 passes of lather remaining in the bowl. So that was a nice little extra margin. That's about how much I like to have extra. Just makes mixing up the lather a little bit easier, but doesn't really waste too much extra soap. And this guy's all dried out now. I went and stropped him on the towel, and I just really like the shape of this knot. It's kind of a hybrid knot between the fan and the bulb shape. And look how much expansion we have. Just a really nice bloom here. And it looks like a few of the tips might have just a touch of gelling going on there. Just a hint of it. We do have some of the darker fibers that don't have the white tips coming up, and that's kind of what you get with a cheaper knot. You can dig in there and cut those out if you want to, and sometimes you can really rid yourself, if you find a good gem in there that's a little too stiff, rid yourself of some prickle, and sometimes that can make a big difference when you have a really soft knot. And so I'm looking forward to keeping using this guy. It's an interesting combination. If we've got some tips that are kind of gelling just a tiny bit, and we've still got a little bit of a very light scrub to it, so no prickle, at this point. It may have started out with a little bit of that, but it worked itself out pretty quickly on that. So I continue to really enjoy this razor in the titanium. As you can see, it's got some girth to it. It's stocky. The head is bigger than a lot of razors out there, and the handle obviously is the main culprit in terms of the weight here. And the titanium just makes it work out perfectly, where it just feels like an average razor, and the thickness of the handle, it's almost magical when you're holding it, because of course you're used to other razors with this much size, with this much volume, being heavier, and so but because of the girth, it doesn't feel like a light razor. It just feels like a kind of a medium weight razor, and so it feels nimble, but it's got that momentum as you're moving through the hair to make it feel smooth. And so the titanium, it could make it too light if we had a handle that was kind of on the skimpy side. But this old Big Bertha handle right here, I mean, yeah, sure, they get bigger, but this one right here, combined with the lightness of the titanium, averages out to nice medium weight that I'm finding I really enjoy. So while the Pages soap from Hub City Soap Company had a nice strength to it that I really enjoyed, I'm afraid the WTX for this shave, the Ideal Man from a recent shave, they are a little bit of a departure from that. Enjoyable scents, but a little bit too light for me to really enjoy during the shave. Now, I use a notoriously small amount of soap in my shaves, and a lot of people overload and face lather and that sort of thing. And so if you're one of those people, you may get a nice scent strength from this soap. So, take that for what it's worth. All right. I think we've got everything cleaned up, looking good. And that I did not think when I grabbed the barbershop. That was one of my other colognes that I brought on this trip, and I just thought, hey, I enjoy it, let's use it. And it really has worked very well with the Lucky Tiger and carrying on from the WTX, a very natural movement, and enough in common with it to where I am definitely, if I had a balm or a direct aftershave product of Barbershop and I had just used the WTX, I think it'd be great there too. Without the middleman of the Lucky Tiger, I think they would work really well together. So just kind of stumbled across another great combo that I enjoy. So I do like the scent of the Barbershop a little bit better than the WTX. It just has some more of the notes that I like. So that's a great way to finish off this shave. So I hope that you guys have gathered something from this shave to help you out in your own shaving journey. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Take care.